Ja, herzlich willkommen, meine Damen und Herren, zu unserer Veranstaltung mit Can Dündar und Anwar über ihr neues Buch Erdoğan, a Graphic Novel. Die Moderation hat freundlicherweise Bascha Mika übernommen, die langjährige Chefredakteurin von der Frankfurter Rundschau und auch von der Tageszeitung früher. Wir sind sehr dankbar, dass sie für uns hier ist und Can Dündar kennen Sie ja alle, ihn brauche ich Ihnen nicht vorzustellen. Und es ist natürlich ein Novum, dass er jetzt ein Graphic Novel vorbereitet hat, gemeinsam mit Anwar. Und das müssen wir auch erwähnen, das erste Buch seines neuen Verlages, Özgürüz Verlag, gemeinsam herausgegeben mit Korrektiv. Wir danken auch Korrektiv für die erste Buchvorstellung, die stattfindet und dass sie bei uns auf der Buchmesse an unserem Stand stattfindet. Und neben mir ist Anwar, Mohamed Anwar ist der Zeichner. Sie werden, wenn Sie das Buch in der Hand halten, verstehen, also warum er so bekannt ist in seiner Heimat und seine Heimat verlassen musste, auch wegen seiner bissigen Karikaturen, wegen der Kunst, die er nicht mehr dort ausüben konnte und er jetzt als Mitherausgeber dieses Buches bei uns ist. Das Buch wird demnächst im Buchhandel erhältlich sein. Und wir als Kulturforum freuen uns, dass wir Ihnen dieses Buch heute vorstellen können. Und meine Kollegin Cila Pöttener hat freundlicherweise die Übersetzung vorgenommen. Viel Spaß, Frau Mika, Sie haben das Wort.
Vielen Dank. Wir machen es der Situation angemessen eben auf Englisch, Deutsch und Türkisch und hoffen, dass wir möglichst viele von Ihnen damit mitnehmen. Es geht, wie Herr Ockern bereits sagte, um dieses wunderbare Buch. Es ist, wie Sie sehen, ein bisschen mehr als ein Heftchen, was man sonst vielleicht von einem Graphic Novel erwarten würde. Nein, es ist ein richtig dickes Buch und ich kann Ihnen aus eigener Lektüre sagen, es ist wirklich spannend. Die erste Frage an Sie beide. Sie haben 3 Jahre gearbeitet. Warum haben Sie die Form der Graphic Novel überhaupt gewählt, um über Erdoğan etwas zu erzählen?
To me? Okay. First of all, thank you very much for coming. Hello everybody, and thank you for the introduction. We like that you like the book. Yeah, we have chosen the form of graphic novel for several reasons. First, there were a lot of books about Erdoğan and a lot of biographies, so graphic novel is a new type, and a new type of journalism, a new type of documentary, a new type of telling the story. And the second thing is, Erdoğan hates graphic novels. So it's a good excuse for us to do it as a graphic novel, you know. So he hates humor or cartoonists.
He doesn't have any humor.
Yeah,
He can't handle it.
and of course there were some cartoonists in Turkey in jail because of, you know, portraying him as different in the forms of different animals, etc. So we decided to, you know, defend the right of drawing him, you know, at the same time. And I guess it's a nice way to reach people in every language. You know, it's a new type of telling the story. But I don't know what Anwar would say that.
Yeah, with the drama also in his life, it's a bit dramatic, his life in a way. And the second thing for me also, on a personal level,
You have to.
I'm really excited and I'm really interested in the form of graphic journalism and comics journalism. And I do believe it's also an access to different generations. You don't have like to read all of this text, so it gives us accessibility also. So you have a life full of drama, full of visuals, by the way, and someone who hates the cartoons. And I don't know why I'm all the time like trapped with dictators or authoritarian regimes who hates cartooning. So I think it's a trap for me also.
I think cartoons are a very sharp weapon.
Yeah, you're right.
Wie lief die Arbeit denn ganz praktisch ab? Also gab es zuerst eine Textzeile oder haben Sie sich vorher zusammengesetzt und gesagt, diese Stationen sind wichtig, deswegen entwerfen Sie den Text und Sie, Herr Anwar, dann die Zeichnung dazu? Haben Sie die ganze Zeit zusammengesessen oder sich immer nur zwischendurch verständigt?
It has been a long journey, as you know, like it's even 4 years, not as 3 years, so there was a year full of research. There's a lot of people who helped us in this project. So it started with the research, started with a long text, very long text Jan has already written, and afterwards it took us like months of preparation where we have been discussing the text and crafting the storytelling together and trying even like to spot the scenes and getting footage and references, because we tried hard for each sentence and each cadre and each frame in this graphic novel to be well documented and fact-checked. So you have both aspects, which is the journalism and the objectivity aspect in doing this book, and you have also the artistic part, which is the storytelling, the way you are telling the story, the way the characters behave in the story, and the scenario also. So all of this, all of these stages are ready before starting to put a pencil on a paper. So it took us like long months before we even like have the very first sketch of it.
Aber für Sie, Herr Dündar, war das ja auch eine völlig neue Art des Arbeitens. Schließlich sind wir beide JournalistInnen und wir arbeiten mit Sprache.
Yeah, I mean, it was like transferring to cinema, film industry, because it's like writing a scenario about someone but as a journalist. But now you have to, dramatize his life story. So we really worked hard on the research, and as you can imagine, thousands of pages we have on his life story. We searched the books, we watched the documentaries about him, we listened some people close to him, etc. So we collected memories, and then we came together and how can we translate this form of biography into a graphic novel, which is more similar to the film industry, So what is the turning points in his life? What are the main characters in his life? So how his face changed and when, and how his attitudes were changed, etc. So when we decided on those turning points, it was kind of easier to, for me at least, not for him, then his work starts. And we collected, as he mentioned, some pictures, footages that he, translated into a form of graphic novel. And then this is the result.
There is also, I think, information and new data that has not been published even before. And I think also this has been, some of them was sources of Jan, like the journalism sources of Jan. And I do always consider the graphic novels, especially the documentary one. There is this term in the cinema which is called the frame rate. So the cinema you have like 24 frame rate per second, and I consider always the graphic novel as a lower frame rate of cinema. Yeah. So it's cinema but with a lower frame rate. So you have to deal with it as if you are a director, you are a script writer, you put casting, you dress your actors. It's the same, but it has to be real. Yeah.
Wie würden Sie den künstlerischen Stil beschreiben, in dem Sie gezeichnet haben?
It was pretty new for me, also this style, and it was a decision from the very first beginning, because I have been, like for the last 12 years, working as a political cartoonist with satire, using satire as a tool in and definitely this reflects on my style in drawing. But here we are. It's not comedy. It could be a black comedy. But there is no satirical aspect in the book itself, and this also has to reflect on the drawing style, on the artistic style. So I have been practicing a new style for me for months, like with the shadows, with the brushes. That this is coming to be like a very technical and artistic talk, but I have been like trying different brushes, for example, like for a lot of months, and different softwares to make it not only, by the way, realistic, because this removes the spirit from the story. There also should be a kind of a personal reflection from the artist on the story. So you have always this shady line between the truth and your own reflection and your own ways of seeing the truth. And this also, as I said, should be reflected in the artistic style that you are drawing. So you will find it between like super realism, as you can see on the cover. This is the face Erdoğan. But also in some frames, you will find it a bit cartoonish somehow. It's a bit funny in some parts. Or even we decided also, for example, like to use a surrealist way of telling the story, but with a distinction between this part where we are using the surrealism and the symbolism in our telling the story, and differentiating it from the factual parts in the graphic novel itself. So it has been a mix between all of these.
Und inzwischen können Sie Erdogan im Schlaf zeichnen.
A lot of dreams. As I have been always telling Jan when we are working, because I have been following and trying to research for each picture of him at every year since he was born. So we had this joke that I knew when did he have like his first mustache, and I'm pretty sure that he doesn't know it.
Und wie ist das bei Ihnen, Herr Dündar? Ich meine, Sie sind seit vielen Jahren einer der schärfsten und bekanntesten Erdogan-Kritiker. Und jetzt dieses dicke Buch über ihn. Sie müssen doch ständig Albträume haben, wo Ihnen erscheint.
Yeah, nightmares, you're right. In fact, it was something challenging. Because imagine you are writing a story of someone who hates you. And someone...
He's your enemy.
Kind of, yeah. And you're writing a story someone you hate as well, destroy your life and your country's life, the history. But at the same time,
your newspaper.
And my newspaper, my family, everything. But on the other side, you are a journalist, so you have to be objective. So it's really a struggle between being an activist, a political figure, but a journalist. So you have to restrict yourself and you restrict your feelings, hatred, whatever feeling you have to, you have to shape yourself as a journalist, and you have to be very careful not to put your feelings in it. So my hope is whoever reads this book would say, okay, this guy is against him, but he's an objective journalist. This will be the target of us, if they can say that. So hopefully we managed to do that.
Sometimes during working also, like we had critiques from our close circles that we were so kind.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
Yeah, of course. Even some family members criticize us, saying that, oh, Kemi, he's looks like a pretty nice guy here. If it is so, it is so, Yeah, no, you read the book, right? Okay. How did you feel?
Ich fand es total spannend und selbstverständlich habe ich zwischendurch auch verstanden, warum dieser Mann so tickt, wie er tickt und was das mit seiner Erziehung, mit seiner Kindheit, mit seiner Jugend zu tun hat. Aber das ist ja auch genau der Sinn der Sache. Also wir wissen doch alle, dass selbst die schlimmsten Mörder, Diktatoren, von irgendwoher kommt es. Und ich glaube, wenn wir den Kampf dagegen antreten, müssen wir verstehen, wie solche Menschen ticken und warum, um den Widerstand richtig organisieren zu können.
Exactly. That's exactly what we wanted to have when you finish the book. You should understand why Erdoğan has turned into, he wanted to be a football player, a Beckenbauer, but he turned into one of the most cruel leaders of the world. So how did it happen? Why? So I hope people, when you read this book, they would understand the reasons behind that.
Das Buch erscheint in Türkisch und Deutsch, aber in der Türkei darf es nicht publiziert werden. Welches Publikum wollen Sie erreichen?
Interesting enough, there's no ban over the book, so nobody puts censorship on it. This is self-censorship. Even I cannot imagine this book is published in Turkey. So this is the mindset, at the moment. So no, there's no police protection or there is no, there is no warrant against the publishing houses. But of course, we thought that, no one can dare to publish that book in Turkey. That's why nobody even tried to reach me. Let's publish this book in Turkey. But thanks God, we are in the age of online publishing now. So, if I can just push the button from here, I can send thousands of PDF copies of the book. So you cannot prevent it anymore. So that's the good side of it, but please don't tell to this project to the publishing house. They wouldn't like it.
To be online, to be smuggled online.
Yes, smuggled online and free as free paper.
But also for me, what is exciting about this project is that definitely it's about Turkey, definitely it's about Erdogan. But for me also, I'm someone whose life is affected by Erdogan's policy, and so it's not only.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Was hat es mit Ihrem eigenen Leben zu tun?
Exactly, like Erdogan changed it a lot, and this is a part that you can read in the graphic novel itself. How Erdogan changed in the structure and the mechanisms of the political Islam parties in Turkey, which definitely reflected on other political Islam parties in the region itself. Now, if you go to Egypt, you will find like pro-Erdogan supporters even the same way as they are in Turkey, for example. And we have been suffering politically in Egypt from the political Islam groups and from the alienations and from the coalitions between them and between Erdogan's regimes for years and years. So what happened even in Egypt, and this is on a personal level, what happened even in Egypt after the revolution definitely had hands in there. So on this aspect, it affected my own life. Also Erdogan has, and Can can even tell more and more about his work in Syria, or his dirty work in Syria somehow. So this affected like millions of people supporting terrorist groups. It's not only about Turkish people, it's about the region. So you will find the drama, and you will find also like things that you can relate to even if you are not Turkish. Like this dynamic between the army, for example, and the political Islam groups and the civil, or we call it like the civil or the democratic movements in the society. This triangle, it happens everywhere in Turkey, in Egypt, in Tunisia. So where you are building a democratic process, it happens the same way.
Deswegen zeigt das Buch eben auch das Muster auf, wie Autokraten und Diktatoren mithilfe des Islam in ihren jeweiligen Ländern die Macht ergreifen.
Exactly, Egypt is a very good example of this political tendency. So we are, in this sense, our political attitudes and political histories are very similar to each other. What is good about this book is, Anwar and I, coming from the same kind of backgrounds, we were fighting against politicization of the religion and autocracy in our countries. We were defending democracy, and unfortunately we found ourselves in Berlin in exile, and now we found a way to struggle together by bringing our energies and our experiences on this book to explain the world that they created those people like Sisi, Erdoğan, so they are not only became what they are at the moment, just because of their struggle, but also the international community made them, kind of autocrats, and they supported them. Europe, United States, Arab countries, so this is not only their talent, political talent, but the political climate all over the world.
Wir werden darüber nachher noch sprechen. Ich würde jetzt erst noch mal gerne auf den Inhalt des Buches kommen. Können Sie natürlich relativ kurz erklären, wie sich Erdoğan den Weg geebnet hat von einem kleinen Jungen aus einer relativ armen Familie bis hin zu der Spitze der Macht, an der er heute steht?
I think there is an important word that's used here also. When Erdogan was talking about democracy and how he's seeing democracy, and he's seeing it as a mean, it's not a goal in itself, as a ladder. He is a pragmatic guy. He's an opportunist guy who knows how to hunt the opportunities in front of him and who knows how to smartly, by the way, make use of them in a very, would be selfish way, sometimes would be pragmatic, short to the end and short to the end goal. Sometimes he would, I won't say betray, but he would sell like his godfather, his Arbakan, as you can see, for example, in the book. So being opportunist in this sense is the thing I do believe that made him. I don't know how Jan also thinks so, but there is also like a human values that you can see, like the good and the evil parts in your character. This guy who loves to play with barefoot football in the streets with his friends, he turns to cover murders, support terrorist groups. Super exciting, this shift. You should be like a super pragmatic and opportunist. You just use what's in your hands at the moment.
Welches Muster steckte bei Erdoğan dahinter?
Yeah, I guess, first of all, he has a target, as he said, and that's important. He will really stick to his target, and he's kind of a fighter, and very decisive fighter, and he has a plan from the beginning in his mind, and he designed everything to get this, target in the end. So that's important. But there are a lot of elements that made this regime possible. One is international climate, as I mentioned already. The second one is the weakness of the Turkey's secular forces and how they divided. You can see from the book. So he used this as an opportunity to open his way to climb the mountain of power. But at the same time, his personal abilities are important here. He's really decisive, never give up. He's fallen several times, but always stand up and go forward again.
So he's a fighter.
He's a fighter, still so, So you can see him yesterday, he was sleeping in a press conference, and everybody starts thinking, oh, come on, he's sleeping and the era is ending. But the other day, he's again, appears as a fighter.
Welche Rolle spielte die Religion? Sie haben das vorhin ja schon erwähnt, dass natürlich der religiöse Hintergrund des Islam wichtig war. Aber wie hat Erdoğan den Islam genutzt und benutzt?
It's so obvious in the graphic novel itself, but not only how he used the Islam, but also how, as I have said, how he gave life again to the Islamic movement, was trying to redefining it, and at one moment you see him like using some Islamic or whatever like verses from the Quran, and at the end he turns back on the same time when he finds like an interest or a personal interest in it. Using this kind of theocratic regimes knows how to manipulate and to emotionalize the crowds, the people, and to play on these emotions with the religion. There is nothing more effective, especially in our countries, than the religion to put the people on fire and push them in the streets and make them like, for example, and you will see this parts in the novel, they can hunt journalists and burn their newspapers just for under the name of the Sharia, for example. Does the Sharia have something to do with this? Definitely, it's their own interest.
Aber Erdogan war doch als Kind tatsächlich fromm.
Yeah, he was a believer from the beginning, and he is still so, I guess. But what is interesting for me is the network. I mean, Islamists have among themselves. So if you are in this family, you can, be in the football team. You can find a work to in a nice place, or in politics you can use it. So it's a really kind of mean that you can use in every aspect in your life. So that is interesting. So we don't have such a network, but Islam can turn into a very useful mean to go to the top of the power mountain.
Welche Rolle spielen die Medien in diesem Zusammenhang? Herr Anwar, Sie haben ja für ägyptische Tageszeitungen gearbeitet. Es gab die ägyptische Revolution 2011. Welche Rolle haben da die Medien gespielt und welche spielen sie heute in Ägypten?
There is no media now in Egypt. Like literally, and they understood definitely that autocratic regime cannot live with like free spaces. And I remember before the revolution, before 2011, during the era of the former dictator Hosni Mubarak, we had a space. We had a space that we gained it, by the way, and I think it's the same way that happened in Turkey. So the space is never given from the top. The space of freedom of speech is always acquired from those who fight for it, and it resulted in a revolution. But the thing that they didn't understand is that they thought the revolution happened because there was a free media. No, the revolution happened because you did fatal mistakes. It's not because of the media. And that's why it ended up right now, like literally, there is no independent media in Egypt, because it was the way that me, for example, and my generation of young cartoonists had the power to talk directly to the streets, to talk directly and to have our opinions in the streets with the people in a direct way. Now I'm Berlin with John. So that's how it ended up after 11 years.
Herr Dündar, auf der Rangliste der Pressefreiheit von Reporter ohne Grenzen steht die Türkei auf Platz 153 von 180. Unendlich viele unserer Kollegen und Kolleginnen in der Türkei sind im Knast und es haben nicht alle das Glück, nach einiger Zeit wieder rauszukommen, und wenn, dann sind sie zum Teil ja auch gebrochen. Und das betrifft natürlich auch Autoren und Autorinnen. Asli Erdoğan lebt jetzt schon seit einigen Jahren hier in Deutschland, und auch sie leidet noch immer unter der Zeit, wo sie im Gefängnis war. Wir haben eben gehört, in Ägypten gibt es eigentlich keine Medien, vor allen Dingen keine freie Presse. Wie ist die Situation, die aktuelle Situation der Medien in der Türkei?
Yeah, again, I would like to start with a small history. Before Erdogan, at least as Anwar mentioned, we also had a space, and almost all the media was against him. So this is about trust. People lost trust to the main media outlets in Turkey. So it kind of helped him, this hatred against him in the media, mainstream media, because mainstream media was fed by the army, the other forces, big business, etc. So people felt more close to Erdogan, and they really didn't believe their lies. And then Erdogan kind of used this wind for his sake, political sake. And then he had a fight for a period of time. He had a fight with this mainstream media organizations, and he won this war because he used several means for this. First, he punished journalists by tax fines first, then putting them in jail, or asked their boss to fire them. Then he found something new. He ordered businessman close to himself to buy those media outlets. And by using this way, he now has the ability to control 90% of the media. And now, imagine, as a journalist, we have to fight against the media. And our worst enemies are coming from the media outlets, you know, papers, TV stations, etc. But thanks God, I mean, 10% still fighting as a fighter. Really, I mean, they are so courageous journalists still in Turkey, and taking the risk of going to jail, they are still insisting, and we are trying to help them from afar.
Welche Rolle spielen dabei die türkischen Medien in Deutschland?
Yeah, I mean, they understood our struggle, and they gave us kind of space to express ourselves, and this is one of the examples.
Turkish media here in
Ah,
Germany?
you're talking about Turkish media. Sorry, I'm talking about German media. Okay. Yeah, I mean, media in exile is a new kind of new concept, and there are many difficulties to, you know, broadcast from Germany or from outside, because they can easily block it in Turkey. This is one thing. The other thing is reaching your sources there. They are scared, and you cannot find journalists to work with. This is another problem. And finance is also a big problem. How can you finance your, you know, media outlet? And that's why I guess the best for us is to cooperate with our German colleagues here. And this book is a very good example of this cooperation.
With Korrektiv.
With Corrective, yeah. So with Corrective, we found out we built up this new publishing house together for the banned books in Turkey. So this is the first book, and more will be coming soon.
Seit einiger Zeit geht es ja der Türkei wirtschaftlich gar nicht gut. Also Erdoğan hat ja seinen Aufstieg auch dadurch bewerkstelligt, dass er bestimmte Bevölkerungsgruppen auch wirtschaftlich gestützt hat. Aber im Moment liegt die Inflationsrate bei 20%. Das heißt, durch die wirtschaftliche Misere müsste ihm doch auch die Unterstützung in der Bevölkerung ein Stück verloren gehen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in the beginning he was kind of powerful in his economic policies, and he managed to get the support of the people thanks to this considerably economic welfare. But then the sources have gone, and now really he has a huge crisis economically, and not only him, of course, together with millions of people. And we can easily see it from the opinion polls that he lost his support from the people, mainly because of the economic policies. And then now it will change. I mean, now, unfortunately, we have a huge crisis in the economic and political crisis in Turkey, and unfortunately, it won't end with Erdoğan, because it will, whoever will come after him will have a ruin after him.
Die Türkei hat sich ja in den letzten Jahren auch sehr stark nationalistisch entwickelt. Also wenn man Menschen aus der türkischen Community hier in der Bundesrepublik fragt, dann sagen die, wir leben hier zwar gut, aber Erdoğan verteidigt unser Land zu Hause. Eine Frage an Sie beide. Wie soll in einer autoritätshörigen und nationalistisch gestimmten Gesellschaft, wie sollen da überhaupt demokratische Strukturen wieder geschaffen werden?
First of all, I guess we cannot generalize the people living here in Germany, because I mean those people also living here, and I'm sure if you ask their opinion, you would find many people who supported us, you know.
Of
so
course.
Yeah, so this is a diverse society in Turkey, and we can see the reflection of it in Germany, and it's a divided society, unfortunately. And unfortunately, Erdoğan did this distinction. And I'm afraid they don't have enough knowledge about Turkey. I mean, Erdogan supporters in Germany, they only go to Turkey for holiday and they see huge highways, very luxury hotels and hotel rooms and tourism centers, and they really admire Erdogan's success in this. But I mean, of course, highways are not a reflection of wealth always. You know, if someone would come to Germany during 30s, he or she would see beautiful highways, right? I mean, 30s Germany, but those highways didn't take the humanity a good way, you know, good end, unfortunately. So, I mean, highways shouldn't be regarded as the best symbols of civilization. So what we need is a fair society with, you know, shared wealth. Unfortunately, we don't have it in Turkey.
Und was ist mit dem Nationalismus? Sie kommen gleich dran.
Oh yeah, okay, tell me.
No, because it sparked an idea in my mind also how like both regimes, either Sisi or the Muslim Brotherhood or before, they act on the same way, like building roads. This is how the fascist and the authoritarian regimes work. Like they feed on the fear. They have to create a monster, an ambiguous monster, and something that the people should fear from. This could be like wars. This could be using the word, for example, like war on terror. Does this mean that there is no terrorism? Yeah, there is terrorism. But you invest intentionally in the fear, and the people like to be afraid from each other and to make them afraid from the different. So this could be the terror, this could be the West, this could be the whatever. So, and we are building right now the highways.
Yeah.
It's also the same thing in Egypt.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I guess the main reason of this rising nationalism, not only in Turkey but also in everywhere in the world, is fear first. People, I mean, it's the kind of results of brutal capitalist regimes or globalism. So people are losing their jobs, their lifestyles, and refugee flow, terrorism. They fear. And what they can find is strong leaders who tell them that, come and join me, I will protect you. And the whole society changed. 5 million refugees came to Turkey and changed the whole political and social atmosphere in Turkey. That's why, I mean, this fear made the populist leaders more stronger, unfortunately.
Was befürchten Sie denn, könnte Erdogan anzetteln? Ganz konkret, Sie haben das eben auch sehr schön beschrieben, Herr Anwar, also was für Methoden es gibt, um von einer innenpolitischen Krise abzulenken. Was konkret könnte Erdogan im Sinn haben, um sich oder einen ähnlichen Nachfolger an der Macht zu halten?
Yeah, I'm afraid we are coming to the end of Erdogan era soon, but this will be the most difficult part. I mean, this final stage will be the most difficult part because he will do his best to stay in power, and including this, his best includes declaring war, doing every kind of political maneuver, and even triggering some internal chaos. That's why we are really concerned that he won't go with a fair election. So everybody is nowadays, searching for an answer to this question: when and how.
So, do you fear a civil war?
Well, I mean, I hope not, but of course this is an option because, I mean, it's so easy to trigger a civil war in Turkey because there are huge differences between people. He pushed a lot for hatred, and there are really people hating each other. And when he said, in the name of Allah, you have to do this, there are many people ready to sacrifice their lives, and that's the fearful point. But I guess on the other hand, the opposition is really prepared for this, and they are kind of calm and trying to find a solution for such a tragic final.
Herr Anwar, wie sehen Sie die Zukunft in der Türkei? Also gibt es da irgendwelche Zeichen, dass das Regime gestürzt werden könnte, dass es demokratische Strukturen sich langsam wieder entwickeln?
I think also in the end of the day, Turkey is not away from what's happening globally. Like there was a rise of this populist movement that has been happening in the last, I don't know, 10 years, for example, and we are seeing it declining right now. And also Turkey, this one, by the way, this one of the things, Egypt and Turkey, they had the similarities and they had like a kind of proximity culturally, politically. We have a lot of Turkish heritage in our heritage. But during working on this book, I was immersed more and more in the Turkish, definitely politics and culture. And I was really amazed with how big this country is. And I'm talking not about like how spacious it is, but how deeply it is rooted when it comes even like to the secular movement, to the leftist movement, to the arts, to the cultures, to the cultural scene. Definitely there is a hope as long as there are people there, you know. And like on a graph-wise, populism is going down. Definitely they will play, as Jan said, it's not only Erdogan. Anyone who is like losing the chair of power will try his very brutal and dark cards in the end game. But also there are people there. There are people who have been building this country for centuries. There's generations. As long as there are generations handing the duty to each other, definitely I think there will be. And I think it's the same in Egypt. And whenever the people try as hard as they can to stick and to stay in the courtyard, in the play yard.
Sie beide haben vorhin schon mal erwähnt, dass weder die Situation in der Türkei noch in Ägypten so wäre, wenn es nicht eben auch Entwicklungen rundherum gegeben hätte. Nicht nur in den unmittelbar angrenzenden Ländern, sondern natürlich auch in den USA und insgesamt in der EU. Nun haben wir gerade gewählt, noch gibt es keine neue Regierung, aber was erwarten Sie von einer neuen deutschen Regierung im Verhältnis zur Türkei?
Yeah, I'm afraid Germany has a huge responsibility in Erdogan's success. Because unfortunately for the last 5-6 years, because of this refugee agreement, Germany decided to turn a blind eye to Erdogan's aggression, and by paying him and letting him do whatever he wants. And Chancellor's policy was, okay, please, let's not annoy Erdogan, because he can just open the gates and send the refugees to Turkey. So this blackmailing of Erdogan worked very well in Germany's example. And we were trying to convince the German politicians that, this policy is wrong, because there are masses, lots of millions of people fighting for democracy, human rights, press freedom, equality of men and women, secularism in Turkey, which you called Western values. And look at you sacrificing your values for your daily business and interests. And unfortunately, it's not only the refugee deal, but they're selling arms, and the big industries, see Turkey as a very important market. So nobody wants to annoy and change the situation. And unfortunately, it's not only people supporting Erdogan in Turkey, but I guess big business also all over the world supporting him. Because it's easy for the big business to do business with someone in charge, and you can just pay him, or you can just convince him that this is the best interest of him or for his country. But imagine if Turkey has a coalition government, you have to deal with each parties, 4 parties, and you have to convince them one by one, and it won't be so easy. So now I thought, okay, they of course like the democratic societies, but at the end, on the other hand, why not, we have a good business partner there. Let's keep him in power and go on with our own business. So this is dangerous. you know, then you have to think twice. What are you doing, and for what reason? And Chancellor came to Turkey for, I guess, 10 times in the last 5-10 years. But she didn't even think of meeting with the opposition, visiting a newspaper attacked, or visiting a wife of a political prisoners or husband of a political prisoners. So, but she went there and visited Erdoğan in a palace, and shaking hands and gave some money and got the key of the refugees. So this is the policy. We cannot call it as a policy of a democratic country.
Und wenn Was bedeutet das für Ägypten, Herr Anwar? Also da gibt es keinen Flüchtlingsdeal, aber wie müsste sich die Politik gegenüber Ägypten, einer neuen Bundesregierung, ändern, damit das Land wieder auf den Weg zu den demokratischeren Strukturen kommt?
There is refugees, even in Egypt, by the way. I think he's learning from Erdogan how to play the same card, by the way. Exactly, because it's an easy card. It's a win-win game. You just threaten, okay, you already experienced what happened in 2015, and they start counting heads. You have 1 million, I have 2 million, okay. Then there is even like in the propaganda machine, in the state media in Egypt, there is this number, which is not true, that Egypt holds like 5 million refugees, which is not true. 3 million of them, they already have been living in Egypt for decades. So definitely it's an easy game to play it. Also the same thing is happening. Egypt has become an important weapon market. And I totally understand this. The political dynamic, whatever. But we tried it again in 2011. In 2011, if anybody here remember, Obama, when he stand, it was the revolution, for example, he stand for the revolution against the dictatorship of Hosni Mubarak. He wouldn't have never done this unless there were a revolution. There was a revolution, unless there were people in the streets and there was a free media. So I do believe that in the first place, in the first hand, it is the duty of everyone who is still holding his possession, so either in Turkey, either in Egypt. It's their first duty. We learned it somehow the lesson after 2011. This support always comes later, and we stopped having the hope that because in the end there is a financial market happening in the weapons deal. It will never stop. It will never stop, and I don't want it to stop, by the way. Okay, but it's all about the Western values, or as we call it, because I don't believe it's Western thing. It's like the freedom is every person on earth. So I think we are the ones who will protect it in the first place, and later will come the support.
Eine letzte Frage an Sie beide. Was hoffen Sie mit Ihrem Buch zu erreichen? Und vor allen Dingen, gibt es das jetzt schon im Buchhandel? Kann man hingehen und es kaufen?
Unfortunately, yeah, not yet. The book is late a bit, a week or so, because of the corona-based paper crisis. So we are still expecting it. We just saw it yesterday for the first time, and we don't have enough copies here, unfortunately. But we start working on the second issue
Version, yeah, the
volume. Second version, yeah, the volume, second volume. So it will be about Erdoğan's years in power, and the book will finish with the end of this period of time. So our hope is we can publish it very soon. So that's the main target for us. And really, I do believe that we are coming to the end of this darkest period of our history. And there are many signs of it, not only opinion polls or the economic crisis, but the power of opposition is getting stronger.
So you should publish your book before.
Yeah, maybe to trigger the change, maybe with a book. I don't know if a book can do that, but yeah, there are many signs. but we have to be prepared for this. And I am trying to explain maybe the new German government should be very careful to handle the issues about Turkey. I mean, if they, invest a lot to Erdoğan again, they would be, in a position to support an authoritarian regime in Turkey. But they should be in contact with the opposition parties who are really fighting for democracy.
So wie Sie wollen mit dem Buch auch die neue Bundesregierung erreichen, dann müssen Sie da ganz schnell in die Verhandlungen, in die Koalitionsverhandlungen eine Reihe Exemplare schicken.
Yeah, maybe. Unfortunately, we don't have the book yet, and you don't have the coalition yet. We can have them both.
And we asked the coalition to give us paper. The paper crisis in Europe.
Yeah, in the first phase, we need papers. Yeah, but really, I mean, that's so important. Of course, you cannot change the political climate in a country from afar, but this is important. At least German government put pressure for democratic forces in Turkey and for the improvement of secularism and human rights issues. And so far, unfortunately, we couldn't see this. I hope with the new government we can find partners in administration. But when you look at the society, we see many people supporting the democratic struggle in Turkey. So our target is, with the German issue, of course, we want to explain the story behind this man, but at the same time, the whole process, how the world made huge mistakes during that last 2 decades. And for the Turkish audience, most of them know already. We just want to refresh their memories.
I do believe that I would feel that my targets achieved from this book when it lasts even after Erdogan, after his era. Because I think it's a document for the history that could be deceived and changed easily, sometimes by the propaganda machine, by his propaganda machine somehow. But also away from Erdogan itself, it shows lessons in the foreign policy, lessons in the political dynamics in these societies, our societies, and it will always remain there. So my target, and I would feel that this book also has succeeded when it stays longer. I believe it's an evergreen book, as they say.
Vielen Dank. Ich danke Ihnen beiden. Ich danke Ihnen, Sheila, für die Übersetzung. Und ich danke Ihnen. Sie sind echt ein tapferes Publikum. Ich meine, hier so stundenlang rumzustehen. Vielen Dank für die Aufmerksamkeit. Und kaufen Sie das Buch, sobald es das gibt.
Thank you for coming.
Wir schließen uns dem Dank an. Vielen Dank, Frau Bascha, Mika, vielen Dank, Anwar, vielen Dank, Can, vielen Dank auch an Chile, die die Übersetzung gemacht hat. Ganz kurz, wenn Sie noch Bücher signieren lassen wollen, Can ist noch ein paar Minuten hier und wir machen bitte so eine kleine Schlange nach links, das haben wir mit LKA arrangiert, dass wir das dürfen. Aber
dieses Ding hier oder nehmen Sie das jetzt weg? Nee, das kann
nach links bitte. Und ganz kurz, wir haben noch ein weiteres Event im März, allerdings im Rahmen von Lit Cologne, da werden